Hello and welcome to Morning Brew on Labour Social. Hope you can see me. Hope you can hear me okay out there in internet world. It is Friday, the 14th of July, 2023, and everyone's on strike. The writers are on strike. The actors are on strike. The junior doctors are on strike. The teachers are on strike. The nurses are on strike. Everyone's on strike. The police aren't on strike. They got their pay demands. They got 7%. More than any other public worker, which is nice for the police, you know, who are there to, I don't know, not solve any burglaries or not investigate any SA, you know, I can't say that really this early in the morning on the show. Maybe we'll get into that later. But yes, the police, yeah, they deserve the money. No one else does. The teachers, they have managed to get to a pay settlement, which doesn't come out of their existing budget. Whereas what Rishi Sunak has offered the medical profession, the junior doctors, the specialists, the consultants, the porters, the nurses, the people who make it all work, that he's offered them more money, but it's got to come out of the existing budget. Because they can't afford £37 billion to waste on, I don't know, an app. You know, give their mates a load of money. They can't afford the money, says Rishi Sunak, who travels the world on a private jet. And I say world, he travels Britain in a private jet. Britain, a tiny little island off the coast of Europe, continental Europe, and he needs a plane to get about. Yeah, okay. If you say so, mate. So you haven't got the money. A bit like Bob Iger. Is it Bob Iger, the lead singer of Disney? The CEO of Disney Corporation, who was saying that they haven't got the money. They haven't got the money. All these people, the government, the billionaires, millionaires in government, the billionaires running the world at the moment. We haven't got the money. You can't go on strike, Amazon workers, because we haven't got the money to pay you. Bullshit. Someone did it was Forbes magazine worked out how much money Smaug had in gold under his mountain. In the Lonely Mountain, in The Hobbit. They worked it out. Size of the mountain, size of the pile of gold, how much gold is worth, how much the extra trinkets and jewelry and the Arkenstone are worth. All that stuff. And it came to about, what, 60 billion? Was it? 60 billion? There are 15 people in America right now with more money than Smaug. And they made more money during the pandemic. Their profits went through the roof. So I'm going to talk about a few different strikes today, but that's generally what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about striking, why it's necessary, why it has to happen, why, well, it doesn't have to happen if people were paid a decent amount in the first place and they didn't see their actual cost of living going up while their actual wages in real terms was going down. But first, I'm going to say hello to all you lovely people out there in YouTube land. Prefer Nesquik. Johnny Copperhead says, morning all. Can anyone help me unlock my phone? I've got some sordid little tattle on it that I want to sell the scum. Someone suggested that the reason why Boris Johnson can't remember the PIN number for his phone is because it was one of his children's birthdays. Ha! Anyway, moving on. We can't vote Labour. They are right wing or just as bad as something. Hump de derb. I'm very smart, says Duke Vengeance. I've had a few conversations like that recently, mate. So yeah, you're not too far from the truth. I can't vote for this party. We need to get rid of the Tories. Yeah, but what about the people putting the fire out? Yeah, but can we let them put the fire out first and then we'll deal with it? No! We've got to make sure that they're decent people enough to do that. To be honest with you, to be perfectly honest, cards on the table, the Labour MPs that I've met, and I've met quite a few, up to and including Keir Starmer, they're all right. They seem all right. I mean, maybe I'm just blinded by, you know, undeserved loyalty or desperation. More likely because of the way the Tories have been handling things. But generally speaking, I don't have a massive issue with most of them, any of them really. Even some of the Corbynites who are still there in the party, who I prefer maybe had their own party that just moaned about things and never got into power. But still, they seem like decent enough people. Like, they just don't seem like the absolute chuntering death march avalanche of sex cases and nonces and scumbags in the Tory party. Don't forget, we're having a by-election next week for Chris Pincher. Is Chris Pincher? Is this coming up, or is this already? No. I don't think Chris Pincher's until the autumn. Pincher by name, Pincher by nature. We've also got the guy who had cocaine on a tray. There's a picture of him like this with this cocaine on a tray. Like, oh, look at all this cocaine. Who's been kicked out. And then there was Nigel Adams was his name. I thought he was a footy player in the 90s. But anyway, Nigel Adams, he's there going, I didn't get a seat in the House of Lords, so I'm quitting my job as an MP. Shows just how seriously he took his job. And then you've got Nadine Dorries. She's not up for by-election at the moment because even though she had put out a tweet saying that she's informed whoever the party whip said she is resigning with immediate effect. That was over a month ago. That was like 5 weeks ago. He still hasn't resigned. Yes. Indeed. eBay Gum says Freckle Puny. And Paul says good morning. So does Job and Christopher. And also Perry Pilot's out there as well. Police aren't allowed to strike. That's from Katrina. Yes, I know they're not. Neither are the army. But yes, good point. But they are getting their 7% pay rise, which is more than NHS workers and teachers are going to get, apparently. But this is Rishi Sunak's red line. And I'm kind of glad in a way that he said that this is his red line, because now he's going to look like an absolute chump when he has to go back on what he said. And then we can all accuse him of flip-flopping and U-turning and all that kind of jazz. Is it true the police are not allowed to strike? Yes, Admiral. The police and the army are not allowed, or the military are not allowed to strike. It's against the rules of their profession, basically. My problem with Labour come when Wes Streeting or Rachel Reeves speak. Still better than the Tories, though, says Christopher. Indeed. That's my point. I mean, even Wes Streeting and Rachel Reeves, I mean, you can talk to them. I know that, you might not like them as much as other politicians, but at least they're approachable. At least there's some kind of like... And also, the big thing, which I'll keep on going on about till the day I die. Well, probably not till the day I die. I don't care that much. But at least Labour will be held accountable, because every burp, fart, sneeze they do in public will be reported on by the tabloid press like a bunch of ravenous hyenas feasting on the corpse of a zebra. Because you know what the tabloid press are like. They wouldn't let Keir Starmer get away with a beer at a meeting that had gone on to the evening. He's having a beer. He said, well, it's all right. He's not driving anywhere, is he? Did he have a lot of drinks? Did he drive? No. Did he break the law? No. In any way? No. Still, it was on the front cover of the Mail newspaper years after the event for like, what was it, 6 or 7 consecutive days? Beergate, Currygate, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, Boris Johnson had a house party every week during lockdown. When you weren't allowed to go and visit your family. Nice. Thanks for that, Boris. You make us feel so wonderful and valued, especially when you said, what was it? Let the bodies pile high. Yeah, I remember that. And he can't remember his number for his phone, which is an interesting little fact here. If it was a criminal inquiry, unfortunately it's not, but if it was a criminal inquiry, it's a 6-month sentence for not handing over your passcode, pretending you've forgotten it for your phone in a criminal inquiry. That 6 months maximum goes up to 5 years in jail when it's a sexual offence or when national security is involved. Yeah, that's fun, isn't it? 5 years in jail. I don't know. It's sort of like the Communications Act of 2000 or something. Someone's got to look it up for me in the chat. I'll fact people in the chat. Get on Google. No, Graham, it was actually the 2001 Sorted Texts Act or something. But yes, whatever it was about 20 odd years ago that this rule came in. And basically you can't lock your phone and then say, I can't remember the number, because that's a criminal offence. They will need to wait and see what they get into as the state of the finances. Audrey McGoody, yeah. Do you reckon, could you imagine in 13 years' time, in 2036, or if Labour, imagine someone from Labour walking around with a piece of paper still from 2023 saying, when the Tories left, they messed up the economy. Look, they said there's no money left, as a joke. Yeah, that's what they did. They said there was no money left. And And people will be like, but Labour, you've been in charge for 13 years. You've had plenty of time to sort it out. Let's move on. Morning, folks. Although Her Majesty's Armed Forces striking is classed as mutiny, the RAF East did strike in 1946, and RAF Henlow withdrew Labour in the 1950s. There you go. See what I mean about fact-checking? Love it. Bring it on. Check my facts. Fact me till I fart. Mark Wilson says, sentence for not providing key comparable with the crime being investigated. It says in instead of is, and it just threw me off a little bit there. My reading ability is not what it was. Freckle Beauty says, well, it shows there is a higher standard expected of the left than there is on the right. John Prescott feels he has to apologise for having an affair. Boris Johnson given multiple excuses. Boris Johnson, incidentally, was having an affair with a woman called Petronella Wyatt. And while he was having an affair with her, behind his wife's back, he was also having an affair with another woman behind the back of Petronella Wyatt. But yes, whatever. Sunak is running scared about his tenure as Chancellor during COVID. He released the cash, yes, to his buddies. To people like Michelle Mone. Michelle Mone, who took millions, what was it, 30 million she took for herself out of the hundreds of millions she was given by the taxpayer, by the Chancellor, who was Rishi Sunak at the time, signed off on it, must have done because it's government accounts and that's the way the government works, so I don't believe this whole, it was probably Hancock's. It was all Matt Hancock's fault. Let's blame him. No. You have to sign it off through the Exchequer, and the Exchequer at the time, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, was Rishi Sunak. And yes, he signed off on millions, hundreds of millions of pounds of taxpayers' money given to cronies of the Tory party through the VIP lane for PPE. And this is the crucial thing. If it had worked and they had paid over the odds, that would be one thing. They not only paid over the odds to their friends, a lot of the PPE wasn't fit for purpose. It didn't work. And as a result of that PPE not working, hundreds of NHS staff died of COVID. These people in the Tory party are not just coke-snorting philanderers. They are responsible for one of the biggest corporate manslaughter cases in the history of the world. And when I say they must be brought to justice, this is what I'm talking about. Every single Tory who was in government during the pandemic should spend the rest of their lives in jail. Collective responsibility, guys. Sorry, you did this. You killed tens of thousands of people in the UK through your inability to govern us through a crisis, your inability to prep for a crisis. Tens of thousands of people dead. The number of people who died so far in Japan, 70,000? The number of people who died so far in the UK, 225,000. The population of Japan, 129 million. Population of the UK, 66.6 million. Work that out. Oh, but it's an island. Yep, they're an island too. But we have high population density. Yep, so do they. Yep, but they're really close to a landmass that has lots of people on it. They're next to China! Sorry, don't mean to shout. Oh, it's just... Anyway. Right, back to the comments. Sorry, just shout there. Sorry. Move my microphone a little bit further away. There should be a criminal investigation into the players of this government, says Plumduff, indeed. Tory Fastlane codename corruption, indeed. One good thing, my coffee mug is not too big, not done filling it yet. Excellent. Right, let's move on. Dentists. Right, so dentistry is in the news today. This is after MPs have demanded a dentistry overhaul as patients resort to DIY treatment. The report calls for urgent reform to NHS services, with some people unable to access care using pliers to extract their own teeth. You know, like in the Middle Ages, because that's where we are right now after 13 years of this government, of this Tory government. We're now living in the Middle Ages, where people have to extract their own teeth by putting a bit of string around it and slamming a door. Oh my God. Oh my, this is where we are. This is where the Tories have put us. People can't get NHS doctors. It's hard enough to see a doctor these days. You can't get an NHS dentist. There are deserts of places where none of these dentists are taking NHS patients because they only get 20 quid for a checkup. It's not enough. So they're turning to private and saying, "Oh, we're going to make it all private." And what happens then? People can't afford it, so they end up pulling out their own teeth. And the people who can afford it may even go into a lot of, can't quite afford it, will go into debt because tooth pain is one of the most horrific pains there is. Scoopnum, please don't do that. That's £2 super chat, probably telling me not to shout again. Sorry. Calm. All calm now. Sorry, the Tories just wind me up. I apologise for shouting. I won't apologise for being impassioned about this matter. But yeah, dentists. So there's a movie called Marathon Man, and it stars John Gielgud and Dustin Hoffman. And there's a famous line that was probably apocryphal, but Dustin Hoffman apparently had a tooth pulled out without anaesthetic because there's a scene in which John Gielgud, who's a former Nazi, spoilers, tortures Dustin Hoffman by drilling into his teeth without any anaesthetic, saying this is the worst pain in the world, and I would know, I'm a Nazi. Anyway, to prep for the scene, Dustin Hoffman had a tooth pulled out without any anaesthetic so he could know what the pain was like. He was explaining this to Sir John Gielgud, who responded with, "Why did you try acting, dear boy?" Which always cracks me up. But the point being, in Marathon Man, this former Nazi, the most horrific pain that he can imagine inflicting on someone, is it safe? Is drilling into their teeth. Because it's horrific. And I think anyone who's had any problems with their teeth ever, I hate going to the dentist at the best of times, even when they numb your mouth. And just the sound of what they do. And taking that away from people, people used to die of their teeth. Back in the day, you had a rotten tooth. And it could cause sepsis and all kinds of horrible stuff. And people died of it. And that's just going to happen again under this Tory government. Unless urgent reform is put in. And that's going to require funding. It's going to require money. It's going to require law to be brought in to say that dentists have to see 25% or 50% or 75% of NHS patients in their in their practice. That's just what they've got to do. And pay them for it. It's fine. It's fine. We have the money. We keep being told we're the 5th richest economy in the world. Isn't it funny how we haven't got any money? And they'll accuse Labour of using the magic money tree, which the Tories never use. No. Not when they gave 37 billion to some idiot woman who, for some reason, was in the House of Lords because her husband John Penrose was the MP in charge of corruption. I think he was literally in charge of corruption for the Tory party, not investigating corruption or trying to stamp it out, just corruption. Anyway, so his wife Dido Harding, 37 billion pounds of our money went to her for her test and trace app that didn't work. Oh, by the way, some figures came out recently, and I'll try and put a link down below if I remember at the end of this about the impact of Brexit to our economy. Now, there were a lot of naysayers, myself amongst them, thinking we were clever and thinking that Brexit was a terrible idea, and it was a terrible idea to impose economic sanctions on ourselves like a gang of blithering idiots. We just assumed that it would all be really bad to tell our rich neighbours who live very close to us to F off, and we're going to trade with poor people on the other side of the world who can't afford to buy our stuff. Capitalism! We thought that was going to be a bad idea, and we thought that it was going to be a 4% knock to the economy. 4%. A 4% knock to the economy based on what we would have had we stayed in the EU. We were wrong. Okay, hands up. I will admit I was wrong on something to do with Brexit, which doesn't happen very often, so let's celebrate it when it does. It's actually 5%. It doesn't sound like very much, but it's 5% of £2 trillion, which is a lot. A trillion, my friends, is a million. If you had a stack of £50 notes and you stacked them up one on top of the other, you had 1 million of them, it'd be 6'6". That's how high the pile would be. If you had 1 billion of them, it would be twice the height of the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world in Dubai. If you had 1 trillion of them, it would be 5 times higher than the International Space Station. Yeah. So that's 1 trillion for you. 2 trillion is our GDP. 5%. God. Wiped off our economy. And when the Tories say we're getting their money, maybe they want to follow it up with the words, and it's all our fault, for forcing Brexit down our throat. Labour Social. This is from Simon Chiduk. He says, pulled out 4 teeth over the last 2 years as there's no new NHS doctors or places here. I'm signed off work long time at long COVID, cannot afford private, had no other options. Simon, that's awful, mate. I'm really, God, 4 teeth, mate. 4. Oh, it freaks me out and makes me sick that we are living in an economy that allows this to happen. We're living in a country that allows it to happen. It's supposed to be a first world country, developed nation, advanced nation, in fact. And this is going on. Oh my God. Johnny says, I went to school with John Penrose MP. What a plum. Fair enough, Johnny. Can't argue with that. Duke says, I'm not mad. I mean, I'm not mad, but I'm not that mad. The other mad. Okay. We've got Plum Duff saying, with no dentist, our breath will match the smell of our sewage-infused beaches. Indeed. Liam says, it's actually mental that people thought Brexit was a good idea. Even if you're a racist moron, you should still see it's a bad idea. No, but you see, what we're doing there is the old curse of knowledge, isn't it? So I've spoken about this before, briefly. We've only got 7 minutes left. Sorry, I don't mean to shout. I keep shouting. I'm quite impassioned today. We've got a long day ahead of us today, by the way. We've got Phil joining us at 1 o'clock for the agenda. If you want to watch that live, please do. Enter the chat, etc. And also, we've got the Labour Social tonight at 9 o'clock. Although I might knock it back a little bit because I realised last week that I'm actually overlapping with Maximilian's live stream. So I might do it once Max has finished, because obviously we don't want to overlap because we share a lot of the same audience. You lovely people, you. Anyway, so what was I talking about? Oh yes, the what's it called? The curse of knowledge. The curse of knowledge. So, put briefly, there was an experiment to do with this. It was probably in Stanford or some university where they do horrible things to people, like horrible psychological experiments. And one of the most horriblest one was they got people to clap out the opening line of "Happy Birthday to You." Okay, and now that you know that that's "Happy Birthday to You," you know that it's "Happy Birthday to You," and every time that you hear it, you'll know that it's "Happy Birthday to You." They were asked how many people, if you clap that pattern to them, will guess correctly that it's "Happy Birthday," and people were guessing 40-50% of people. The actual result was 4%, because to someone who's not been primed with the knowledge that that is "Happy Birthday," it is just. Now you can't not hear "Happy Birthday," you see. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should have started with just clapping, and you wouldn't have known. Anyway, the point being, this thing called the curse of knowledge, which is that if you find something really self-evident and obvious, you assume naturally that the vast majority of other people will see it as obvious and self-evident, but it's not. Hence Trump and Brexit. And Emily in Paris. Keep calm, Graham. Labour is coming. Just quickly. Just a little bit off topic here. Went to see Indiana Jones finally on Wednesday. Would have seen it opening weekend, but there were no subtitle showings anywhere in the country apart from in Plymouth, which is about 3,000 miles away. So didn't go there. So we finally got a subtitle showing of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. It's okay. It's okay. Really liked Indy. Really liked the little kid who was in it. I thought he was great. I quite liked some of the supporting cast. Antonio Banderas turns up for some reason. He's charismatic as always. Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I've not seen her in many things. Apparently she was in the last Bond film, but I think I might have just filtered her out or something. I don't know. If she had anything to do with the script writing of this film, why would you do that? Why? She is the most unlikable character I've seen in a movie that isn't actually a bad guy. isn't meant to be unlikable, isn't meant to be like Joffrey. She was like Joffrey out of Game of Thrones, but a woman in who was supposed to be helping the goodie out. She was insufferable, smug, condescending, horrible. And like every time she came on the screen, I was like, oh, she ruined the film. Absolutely ruined the film. I don't know what they were thinking. Do you know what Indy needs? He needs a posh, condescending sidekick. But I've got to give her some accolade because she managed to be not just more irritating than Sheila Booth in the last movie when he played Mutt, Indiana Jones' son. She was more irritating to me than Willie Scott. I watched that movie and I came back and thought, I kind of want to watch Temple of Doom now because it's going to Willie Scott is going to annoy me a lot less. Kate Capshaw, obviously. Yeah, wow. Anyone who's seen the movie knows what I'm talking about. No spoilers in the chat, please. But let's go back on to talking about dentistry and strikes and the things that we need to talk about. We've got 3 minutes left. Oh my God. Does this time go really fast for you? Because it's like, it's just not. But I was thinking about this because when James O'Brien does like his opening monologue, it lasts for like, I don't know, 20 minutes or something. He just talks for 20 minutes before the ads come on and he has a little ad break. I mean, that first 20 minutes just seems to fly by. Howard Hughes, Now There Was a Strange Man. Oh, my Uncle Howard. He was great. He was a genius. Yeah, he suffered from neurodiversity, we would say these days. Yeah, there's a thin line between genius and madness, I guess. Yeah, just create the spruce goose and invented a kind of cantilever bra and directed a few movies. It's always good, isn't it? His movies, essentially, they had this thing called the Hays Code in America in the 1930s right through until the end of the 60s. And the Hays Code came in pretty much as a direct result of Howard Hughes' very racy films that he made in the early 30s. The censors went, oh, cancel him, quick, cancel culture's coming. Anyway, by the way, as well, I might mention this again at some point, but if any of you have Netflix, one of my friends has directed a documentary about free diving, which is that mad thing that people do where they hold their breath and see how far they can dive underwater without dying. And a lot of the time, like, they literally die, and I don't know why people do it, but it's a thing. Anyway, my friend Lauren McGann has made a documentary about it, which was on the Sundance Film Festival earlier this year, and it was on at the Sheffield Film Festival last month, and it's going to be on Netflix on July the 19th, so look out for that. I'll find out what it's called. I forgot what it's called. I'll find out what it's called and let you know. Graham, where's the European flag? I don't know. Where is my European flag? Oh, it's over there. I can't think. It means getting up. She married Spielberg, and her daughter was in Grey's Anatomy. That's very true. Spielberg left his wife for Kate Capshaw on the set of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. An incredibly racist film. I'm chuckling about it now, but oh my God, how did that get made? I was a bit surprised as well that they had Salah makes an appearance, sorry, spoilers, in the new Indiana Jones movie. I didn't think they'd be able to do that because it is a Welshman playing an Egyptian. Okay. John Rhys Davis, he's Welsh, isn't he? Isn't he? He's Welsh. What's he doing playing an Egyptian these days? Is it all right because he did it in 1981? A new Indiana Jones movie is due out in 2027. It's called Indiana Jones and the Zimmer Frame of Zanzibar. Indeed. Yeah, I was watching it and there's not much in it that would disrupt my script, which was set in 1962 for Indiana Jones and the Heart of Darkness, in which Nazis steal Hitler's remains and try and use voodoo to resurrect him in Africa. I've spoken to you about this before. It's Indiana Jones meets boys from Brazil, essentially. And he has to stop them using the dagger that Abraham was going to use to sacrifice Isaac in the Bible. You see, that famous dagger. The dagger. Yes. Yeah, there's not many things I'd have to change in the script to make it fit in as an earlier episode. Although they would have to de-age Indiana Jones quite a lot. He's too old. He's too old. Just de-age him. Have him do all the parts and everything. Just de-age him for the whole thing. Like they did with Samuel L. Jackson in the Captain America movie. Not the Captain America. Captain Marvel movie. Spielberg regrets the film now, saying he went too dark because emotions stem from his divorce. I read that as well. Yeah, he was in his... No, but also Lucas was getting divorced. I think actually Lucas wrote it, didn't he? So it was stuff that he was thinking of when he was getting divorced. I know that the minecart chase, they wanted that in Raiders of the Lost Ark, but they didn't have enough time to shoot it, so they shoehorn that sequence into Temple of Doom. Indiana Jones and the Country of Doom. In the Country of Doom, you know that was filmed in Sri Lanka, because even at the time, like, Indian authorities were like, this is really offensive. Why are you having people who are nominally Hindu and therefore vegetarian eating these disgusting things, these disgusting meals? But yeah, but there's an argument that Lucas was in a really dark place, and Spielberg at the time just didn't give a toss. So it's just like, yeah, whatever. Anyway, Black Rain was great. Black Rain was great. Yes, I'm trying to think of the connection here between Indiana Jones, Black Rain. Black Rain had that was Ridley Scott, wasn't it? Was Harrison Ford in that? He was, but probably. It's a good film. It was during the 80s, wasn't it, when they just kept on knocking these absolute classics out of the ballpark, and there were movies that weren't based on something else. They were original movies. I mean, obviously the Indiana Jones films were kind of based on the old serials in the 1930s, but it wasn't based on a comic book or something that already existed. Whereas now everything's based on something that already existed. Although we're not going to have any movies for the foreseeable after Oppenheimer and Barbie come out, because the actors are on strike. Quick discussion about this before I go. Already over time. So, Catherine said last night, but these actors get paid loads of money. Like, what's Matt Damon going on strike for? And Emily Blunt and Cillian Murphy. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not about them. They're striking in solidarity for the people who aren't earning residuals enough anymore to pay for their healthcare. Because these movies, they did deals. The same thing happened in 1980 with the transition to videotape. And then the same thing happened again in 2008 when they had the strike then, which was basically because of DVD rights, residual rights. And now it's happening again because of streaming. So basically a new technology comes along, and a few years later people say, hang on, you're making all this money out of streaming and we're not getting any residuals. How does that work? That's not fair. And they go on strike. And I support them. I absolutely support them. I mean, whether it's someone who's a jobbing actor just trying to get to keep their head above water in LA or wherever, or whether it's one of the millionaires who's actually supporting them by withholding their labor. You know, they don't need to strike. They've got loads of money. They've got loads of parts. They get loads of residuals, but they're striking in solidarity, which I respect. We need more people like that in this country. Mission Impossible 7 on the weekend. It sounds epic. Yeah, it's got a 5-star review in The Guardian. So I would love to go and see that. Plus, it's got Rebecca Ferguson in. They won't use AI if the writing and actor strike continue. They can't. AI is just not good enough. Do you know what? It's probably good enough to make some like really crap AI action films, maybe. But a friend of mine, you can look this up, Oscar Sharp. He made a film with the guy who's the main character in Silicon Valley, the TV show. And it was a short film, and it was all based on AI generated script, and it's just nonsense because AI has difficulty with having a sense of context, and that's what humans do really well. AI has no sense of context. Also, no sense of context, modern architects and Tory MPs. They could be replaced by AI tomorrow. Fingers crossed. Let's do it. Let's replace the entire Tory party with an AI that just says delivering, 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 delivering. Great. Anyway, some of the mid-journey images are mind-blowing. Yeah, they're pretty good. They're pretty good. But I can't see AI-generated films coming around anytime soon. Because even on the cutting-edge AI stuff that you can get now through Adobe, you can put in, it's like plugins and stuff, you can put in a script and it'll storyboard it for you, which is fine. But to have the nuances from the actors and to actually make it watchable, and you need a script. So you need a script writer. You can't just have the AI create a script. Have you not seen the Martin Lewis's deep fake video? Yeah, I've seen it. It's, you know, it's good, but we know it's a deep fake. You know, people have been photoshopping things since before Photoshop, you know. There's been a whole history of manipulating photographs. The Soviet Union was well into that, airbrushing people out that they had pushed off a cliff. So yeah, no change there then in Moscow. But yes, it's nothing new. one of the things I was saying about this as well is, in a weird way, it kind of gives people a bit of a get out now, because if there is a photograph of someone doing something utterly incriminating, they can just say, oh, no, it's not real, it's AI. I didn't really do that. How can you argue against him? Anyway, look, we better go, because James O'Brien's been on for a couple of minutes now after the ad. So I'll let you go and listen to James. I will be back at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock on Labour Social with Phil Morehouse. We'll be doing a roundup of the week, discussing everything that you want to discuss and we want to discuss about what's been happening. So I'll say thank you for watching. And until 1 o'clock today, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.